With me, I'm your host Larry Elson. In studio, my brother from another doctor is in the house. Dr. Bradley is here giving you a neck checkup from the neck up
again.
All right,
finally,
Dr. Bradley, aka
we're back.
This old house. Yeah, he's got some home improvements, folks. He's gonna get to you guys in our 10 o'clock hour. So stick around. He's gonna tell you how you can build an addition onto your house. But we want to thank our sponsor, Guarantee Rate Mortgage Company. For all your mortgage needs, give branch manager Cora Holbrook a call at area code 781-342-0252. Guaranteed Mortgage is located at 75 State Street in downtown Boston, Mass. Guaranteed Rate Mortgage Company, guaranteed to exceed your expectations. So, like I said, we are live in studio today. I know, folks, the hiatus is over. We are not seeing a rebroadcast. Folks are saying, is this live or is this Memorex? This is live, folks. We are live in studio. If you don't believe me, look at your cameras, and that is not Dr. Bradley's voice you heard squeaking out there. We have Sister Priscilla going to introduce her in a moment. But if you want to call in and join the conversation, give us a call at 617-282-0685, 617-282-0685. And we are honored to have in studio with us this morning our guest, Sister Priscilla, who is a host of her own show here, People Power with Priscilla, heard every Thursday morning. Are you still on at 9 o'clock?
Yes,
I am. 9 o'clock, 9 to 10.
So obviously you haven't been listening to me.
You know what? I have a standing meeting on Thursdays, 9. So it's like, I believe me, you know, I was an avid listener, and when I can, I try to tune, but these kids have been keeping us busy, so I have to give the city their money's worth. But she's, like I said, she is a guest here. Great show here. Like I said, the talent on this show, on these broadcasts. So, like I said, every Thursday from 9 to 10 a.m. People Power with Priscilla, and she's definitely power. Also, you know, she says she's an author as well.
Mm-hmm.
Her book, I Look Back and Wonder How I Got Over. In fact, I'm looking at her beautiful photograph over there on the picture there.
Yeah, with that little pose.
Yeah, you know, I'm like,
I'm looking back.
Wondering how
I got over.
It's how appropriate, right? Life's experience. But she's here to talk about her new venture, Marcus Anthony. It's been not so new, but it's going to be launched. Marcus Anthony Hall Educational Institute. And there's an event tomorrow, Sunday, January 15th, 2023, from 3 to 5:30 p.m. at the Bruce Bowling Building at 2300 Washington Street on the 6th floor. That's up there, and that's a nice little skylight.
Yeah, it's beautiful up there.
Yeah, it is,
yes,
over the city. That's a little hidden gem that people don't utilize.
Yeah, that's open to the public. You can rent that space.
Yeah, and is it expensive to rent?
It's not too bad.
Okay.
I mean, considering some of these halls,
right?
You know, I can't give the price out of
right. But
and they take a security deposit from you, but you get a separate. You give it to them in a separate check, so you get it back after the event.
Oh, okay. So things like
is that the one located down there?
That's a school building.
That's a school building.
Right on top there. I know people have had events there, and my first time up there, it's like I walked out on the terrace. You know,
it's nice. In the summertime, it's really nice.
Mm-hmm, you can see the skyline of downtown Boston. So, you have some top billing there. You have one of your keynote guest speaker is Russell Holmes, State Representative Russell Holmes. Mm-hmm. Glenn Lloyd is Mills Community Investment President. He's guest speaker. And your keynote, one of my favorite people, former State Representative Nika Elgato is going to be your keynote speaker at the event tomorrow. So before we get into the event for tomorrow, tell us a little bit about, because a lot of people have heard, I've heard it myself, about Marcus Anthony Hall Educational Institute and how that came about.
Okay, so actually how it came about was a tragedy. On June 14th, 2016, Marcus Anthony Hall had taken his 4-year-old son Yoda to the barbershop on Blue Hill Ave. And 2 gentlemen came in there, and they all went outside together, and they shot Marcus and killed him. And I'll never forget the day, because I was actually at one of my best friends and my mentor wedding, and you know how you're waiting, because you know the bride always takes a long time. And I opened I just opened my phone, and his mother was on there saying that she had lost a son, and I was just devastated. I couldn't believe it, because he had worked with my old organization, and he just he was a community activist. He knew about construction law, constitutional law. He knew about state law. He was very adamant in the work that he was doing in the community. He started an organization called Booth, Brothers Out of the Hood, and then he started another one called the Community Action Plan, where he was trying to reach out to the brothers and to the to the young folks. And just so happens that he was trying to do this through the churches, and some of the churches like basically told him no, and so that was hard to hear, but I just felt compelled to do something in his honor because he was a great guy. We started this institute. We did it through Zoom in 2021, and we graduated 20 students. And what it's about is teaching our young folks about civic engagement, teaching them the 3 branches of government, teaching them how to talk to reporters, how to work and advocate and for themselves. The school department has students on the school department on the committee, but they can't vote and they don't get paid. So why be there? If you're in a circle or you're in a space and you can't be heard, then you don't need to be there because you're wasting your time. And so I know Marcus's mother very well. We've been together, and so she was very happy to know that I was going to do something in his honor, and I promised that I would do it. And during COVID and all that, things happen. But tomorrow is the day, and I'm so excited. I have been able to raise some money. The Boston Foundation is one of our sponsors. The City of Boston is a sponsor. Urbanica, Cameron Zahedi, and so I'm just thankful and grateful because it's a blessing to be able. And the young folks that I have working with me, oh my God, it's just amazing. My board. The staff that I'm bringing on, they're young. They're all they're young, but they are smart. They have been in this community doing the work. The Carrie Mazes, the Taylor Douglases, Corinne Kelton, Aziza Goodnight, Cece Graham. All these people are part of my my board and my staff, and they just helped me pull this thing together. I told them, I said I want to do it on January 15th because that's Martin Luther King, Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday. And then I found out that it's also my grandmother's birthday. Wow. So that's just like a double, thing.
Significant.
And yeah.
So let me ask you, Priscilla, and part of my ignorance, because, I've heard you mention Marcus Anthony Hall's name numerous times, right? And honestly, I did not make the connection to this young man that was murdered. I remember that incident because it's right across from the Mattapan police station, almost directly there. I remember that incident, and I remember hearing about it. And again, it did not dawn on me that this is who this was, and that the impact is. I remember, the tragedy. On top of the tragedy was that his young son was there,
4 years old,
right? Well, when this took place, I know in broad daylight. And
that just goes to show you that things are getting worse. They're not getting any better. They're getting worse.
We were talking about.
I have been talking to some people about us maybe doing a youth summit this year because I have the young folks. Our program is being ran out of the Do It Center. It's a program every other Saturday from 10 to 2. And our students, we're going to spend maybe an hour, 2 hours inside, and sometimes we're going to go outside, door knock, register folks to vote. It's all about knowing who we are. Like my slogan is, we are the people and we have the power. And I believe that. Our young folks need love. Our young folks need to know that they are respected because they have a lot of skill sets, a lot of knowledge. Like, I like listening to them,
Right. No, I that's one of the reasons I enjoy working in the schools, right? Engaging our young people and learning from them, but also educating and informing them. But a lot of them don't have that emotional or social support at home, right? And so they are looking for adults or programs such as this, because a lot of these things are just they're constructed so that people can have a job, so people can claim they're doing something. But as long as I've known you, I know your heart has always been in trying to make a difference in our community, and you've been unapologetic in doing so. And you've run for office, and because we were talking about, and because it ties into this, Dr. Bradley, we were talking about that the problems that we're seeing here, in the city, because we were saying, what would your grade, and you don't have to answer it if you want, but what would your grade be of the Wu administration? It's been over a year that they've been in office, and there were a lot of campaign promises, and I'm not seeing much of them going to fruition. And I know they've tried some things, like I told them, what Mass and Cass is a perfect example, is that I see the problem being contained, trying to be contained. I see more fencing going on down there, trying to corral these folks. Now they're all kind of like on a side street, so when you drive by the main street, but the problem,
You're hiding the problem. You're not resolving the problem.
there you go.
I have, I don't know if it's a more profound question. I think I know the answer to the question, but I want to just you put it out there so people may be asking it. Why did you select that particular subject to teach our children about?
Because we don't know it. A lot of them don't know it. They're not taught in school, and we keep getting these politicians that are in office, and they do the same old thing. They come when they're running for office, and then they disappear. And then our city council, they just, I don't know, they
That's
just
Jerry
act a
Springer.
fool down there,
It's just a Jerry
I'm
Springer.
telling you, it doesn't make any sense.
Cut it
I'm
for food.
sitting through the redistricting meetings and the reparations, but I think the reason why they all signed off on the reparations, because they probably knew there'd be a riot down there if they didn't, But it just goes to show you that there's things that are going down. I heard that the four city councils are disputing the redistricting map. Like after it's been voted on 9-4, and now the 4 are going into court to dispute it. I mean, come on, people.
So let me explain to you why I asked that question. The reason why I asked that question is because as a former director of climate and safety in Randolph Public Schools and visiting other schools, especially in the community, there's a serious lack of understanding of our political system from the youth. So we can't begin to actually, and so I commend you on actually targeting that particular subject because our school system's not doing it. And so what's happening is that we're producing a generation of folks who don't understand what they're voting for.
Right.
So it's easy for them to actually look at things like what's happening in Washington today, or what happened in Washington a year ago or 2 years ago, and not understand, the profound impact that particular issue will have on their personal lives, because they have been purposely kept ignorant to the system. So, and I say all that to say we will need organizations like this, movements like this, to actually provide that supplemental, for lack of a better term, education. So when people go to the poll, number one, they will go. They will understand why it's important to go.
Right.
And number two, they will do their research to make sure that they're putting people like they should have done when you ran in office to say, you know what, we're going to make a change. We're not going to actually deal with the institutions or submit to what the institutional will is. We're going to submit to the power of the people. That's important. So you have to start educating that group of that generation now in order to actually get them 10, 15, 20 years from now.
Well, you know what that reminded me of before, and we're going to bring the caller in a second, is that, remember growing up ABC Rock on Saturday, right?
Yeah.
Howard Bill and all that stuff, right? And you think about that
so
now.
simple,
Right.
right?
I think that's what you took the words right out of my mouth. I'm like, wow. It was like, I didn't know how,
bill becomes a law.
Right.
Yeah.
And all of that. But the importance of that, right? Because if not, we just kind of think these are jobs that people have. We don't understand the jobs and the difference between a city councilor and a legislator.
rep,
Like people, a lot of times when the city council, they pass an ordinance, they can't pass laws. So a lot of times, like when people don't, the difference like now with the police reform, the OPAT, right, is that is a city, that is germane to Boston, but they can't pass any laws, and the legislators are the ones who pass the laws. The governor has to sign it into law, but they're two different entities. The state passes with the funding and stuff. So, but if you don't understand that, it can be very confusing and overwhelming. So people a lot of times are not understanding. What happens is they just vote name familiarity. Oh, yep, I voted for them last time, right?
Or I like the way the name sounds. And I have some people tell me, "Why do you vote?" Well,
They got the most votes last time, so they want to be on what they perceive as a winning team.
Yeah, exactly. So until we can actually get the school system and I think that's another part of the argument, part of the fight, to include this in their academic profile.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I would like to see. I would really like to see this program be brought into the Boston Public Schools.
And speaking of when Dr. Brothers, that there was the city council, if I'm not mistaken, they passed it a lot. They want to allow 16-year-olds to vote.
Yes, they do want to allow them to vote, and some people have a problem with it.
I know,
but
the
I'm
city
like, if you
council
can
passed
drop
it.
out of school, if you can drive a car at the
You can
age
be a
of
parent.
16, yes, why can't you vote? You know? I mean,
I'm sorry.
one of my students in my first class was 14 years old, and she said, I want to go to law school. And she said, so I read law books, and so some of these young folks, they know what they want to do. One of my students came back. She's now working with me part-time. She's at her second year BU. She said she started saving for her college at 14 years old.
Wow.
And so these young folks, they get these
She
jobs.
had the competency at a young age, right?
Yeah, and
my argument is, I love that. I love because kids are coming back,
Right.
And they're teaching because kids tend to listen to kids much
Right,
quicker than
right.
they'll listen to people like us.
Right.
It's like, hey, Dr. Bradley, you were born in the 1950s, Doctor. You don't know what you're talking about.
But another thing too, some of our elders, it's the way they talk to the children. They talk. I mean, the youth, they talk down to them. They make them seem like they don't know what they're talking about. And some of them, to be honest, are smarter than they have that education. They know what they're talking about. You know. So I just I'm just happy. I mean, I'm so excited. I just don't know what to do with myself. But I still got a lot of work to do to make it happen. So
Well, let's
but
see.
I'm gonna I appreciate you all letting me
Let's bring this caller in. No, listen,
we
you
have a
always
caller?
We'll bring the caller. See, you got the lines lit up. Good morning, caller. Welcome to At the Round Table. Caller, you there?
You probably say you talking so much, I forgot.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yes. Good morning, caller.
Hey, Ryan. Yeah, I had it on mute. I'm sorry, because I don't want y'all to hear all this noise.
Okay.
Hey, good morning, sis. Happy New Year's to you.
Happy New Year's to you too, T. How you doing?
One day at a time. Out here, working, because they don't pay me to do nothing to see your boss. Because I get another job.
Welcome to the club.
Yes. So yes, I am going to be attending tomorrow's event. Because I think it's a dynamic. It's a dynamic forum. It's a platform. That you have. Gave us. Especially for our young folks. To see. On how the electeds work. And how and who has the power, and who you need to be targeting. With the power. Like I said in the last broadcast, like our city councilors, they have no power. They have none whatsoever, power in the city of Boston. I had
They have
issue.
it. They just don't know how to utilize it. That's the problem. They
Well,
don't, that's because the
well-
right people ain't in office. Some of them.
Well. When I mean, by power. So say like if a constituent has a problem with their department, and I've seen this among our block elects. I reached out to a couple of the block elects for an issue that I had, at my job, and I did it because one of my other elects said, you know what, I want you to use them first to see what results you get, then come back to me and let me know on the results.
Yeah. Well, go ahead.
And that's what I did, and it was funny because, and I tell them, because if you go to the problem that I told you was the problem, and then they start feeding you lines and stuff about this and that, then you come back and you tell me what they said and the and you believe that, to say, okay, you know what? Well, I heard all this that's going on here. What are y'all doing? And they're not paying you no mind. That's no power.
Well, I think the first thing, I think you made incorrectly when you said working in elected officials, right? I think it's an oxymoron, right? Because there are very few of them that actually do any work. And maybe we should start looking at reforming the government in the sense of, right, is what you were alluding to there, Terrence, right? Is instead of electing city councilors, right, just pay the folks who deal with the constituent services, right? And as a representative of the city, it would be cost effective, and they're the ones who end up doing the work anyways, right? Most of these city councilors do not do the work. When you call down there, you talk to their staff, right? And they're the ones who tell, or they redirect you to someone else. So what are we really paying for, right? For them to pass a budget, right? And that, they have a little bit more clout in that with their changes, very little. But the only thing I said that I've known that they unanimously have voted on was their pay raises. And
exactly. I was so upset with that. I mean, that just don't start talking about the pay raises, okay? Because that just boils my butt.
But we need to talk, because there needs to be accountability in that. Like Terrence was talking about, he has to go, right? He can't go vote. Just like I work for the city, I can't vote myself a pay raise.
Exactly.
Right? And matter of fact, we have to wait.
A lot of money, $25,000 more a year. That's somebody else's salary.
That's right. For doing what?
Yeah.
What? Right.
But they do. They can do that.
That's what I'm saying. And they should not be allowed. It should go to the taxpayers and say, okay, do they deserve it? Just like you assess every other city worker's assessment on what you think their net worth is. Mm-hmm. Why should you be different and you get to decide that you're worth $25,000 more, but yet frontline responders, you want to give them 1%, 2%, and then you want to tell them that they have to give up all of these things in order to get it, but you get yours with no oversight.
And I don't understand that, because in order to work for the city of Boston, you have to live in the city of Boston, but you can't afford to live here.
Well, you must have missed our first hour.
Yeah, exactly. We were talking about
that's what we were saying, is that, attracting people here, and we're saying we see the gentrification that's real here. The need for this. This is why, what you're doing tomorrow and continue to do every day with the Marcus Anthony Hall Education Institute is educating our folks of the importance, because what I've seen a lot of people doing, because they have no choice, is they're just packing up and moving, right? Yes. They're leaving, right? Yeah. I mean, our education system here, civics is not taught in the school. Not much of anything is being taught in the schools.
That's why I don't have a problem with people pulling their kids out of school, homeschool them. I have an 11-year-old friend. Her name is Anelia, and she is a baker. She's going to be a vendor at my event tomorrow. And she's been baking cakes since she was 8 years old. Wow. I'm telling you, her sister is 8, and her sister wants to do makeup for brides and be an artist. They're homeschool, okay? So I think that when you homeschool your child, and I know everybody don't have that
capacity,
advantage, right? Mm-hmm. But think about it like this: what if you have a reading teacher on Monday? All the kids go there. On Tuesday, it's math. All the kids go there. There's ways that it can be done, because our children are not coming out of Boston Public Schools with a lot of knowledge. I went to Boston Public Schools. I'm a product of Boston Public Schools, and I felt like I got a better education than our young folks are getting today. And that's what it's all about: lack of knowledge. The Bible tells us we perish for lack of knowledge.
Right.
Different times.
And
we spoke about that earlier.
Oh, okay.
We spoke about
rebroadcast.
Yeah, exactly. So we're just going back over it. It's important,
but I think
because the education, we talk about violence, as opposed to when we were in the Boston Public School system, as it relates to today. Right. You cannot begin to get a quality of education when you have to fight your way in and fight your way out. I'm sorry.
No, because you're right on point. But the fact that she wasn't here is actually good, because it just shows these issues, right? That this is, people are saying who are really paying attention, don't even have to be in the same room, and then she is just like she's regurgitating what the problems are. We know what the problems are, and these folks are not solving our problems.
The thing about it, though, if they would just listen to us, we know. I think I have some good ideas. I know other people have great ideas that we can work to improve the quality of life for our children and for ourselves. The fact of the matter is that there's billions of dollars of money in this city, in this state, and that we have to almost like rob Paul to pay Peter, and then John show up. These organizations are, there's a lot of good organizations in the city, Then there's a lot that they just get the money, And so that's why we're also teaching how to write grants. This is going to be part of our curriculum. Andrea Payne's going to be teaching our youth how to write grants. We're also doing moral leadership with ex-Vice Chancellor Charlie Titus. These are the things that we're teaching. We have Sam Pierce. He's going to be teaching research. That man knows how to do some research, okay? So we have these people that are going to come in and talk to our students and work with them and show them, Carrie Mays is amazing. Taylor Douglas, she has an organization called the Little Black Village. And I'm telling you, the sister knows her history.
You're listening at the round table with Ma'am Leo. In studio, I guess, Sister Priscilla is in studio. She's talking. She had an event tomorrow, the Marcus Anthony Hall Educational Institute launch event, Sunday, January 15, 2023, from 3 to 5:30 p.m. in the Bruce Bowling Building on the 6th floor. That's 2300 Washington Street, Roxbury, Mass. This institution started, like I said, I got an education in small Marcus Anthony Hall. I do remember the gentleman that was murdered at the barbershop there in broad daylight while he was there with his young son. So, Priscilla, you have our star-studded lineup of folks, our State Representative Russell Holmes, Nick Algato, Glenn Lloyd. So this is the launching platform. For what is your expectations of tomorrow's event? And going forward, what do you see the Marcus Anthony Hall Institute doing to improve the lives of our community?
So I'm expecting for some young folks to show up that are interested in the program. I'm expecting my community to show up for me like I show up for them. And going forward, our first class is January 21st. And that's where we're going to find out who we are, what we're doing, how do we define ourselves, what is a leader, I never really considered myself a leader. I just did the work, and then I realized I am a leader, and I'm a good one. And the young folks gravitate to me. These young people who don't deal with a lot of elder. Yeah. And so I'm looking forward. Our first class is January 28th. This is a Saturday at the DeWitt Center. The DeWitt Center have been so accommodating to me. I have another program called the Black Local Organizing Committee, and we meet there every Thursday. So I'm just trying to keep myself in this. We're organizing, folks. I'm telling you, they're gonna look up one day. Diane Wilkinson always says this. They're gonna look up one day, and we all gonna be in the same room, because we have to stop dividing ourselves. We have to be able to call people out. Unfortunately, nobody wants to call folks out, but some people, enough is enough.
Well,
really.
The thing is, when you do, people take it personal. I'm like, no, you sign up or you claim you're running on a platform, and if you're not living up to that expectation, people have a right. You claim that this is what you're going to do. That's a criticism of what you claim to do. You're going to do. That is not a personal attack, and I don't believe in personal attacks. But you know what? It's fair game if you're not living up to the standard that you claim. When you said.
Yeah, but that's why I think what she's doing is addressing that issue in politics. Because when people start to understand politics, they start to understand, what elections is all about. They start to understand the government. It is unlikely.
Knowledge is power.
There you go. That people can walk in and sell this song and dance repeatedly and not be held accountable. A large part of the issue is that people don't understand it, and so
it's easy to fool them, right?
To fool them.
If you tell them something like they said, and you don't know, and so you don't want to show your ignorance of the subject matter.
Right. So you keep your mouth shut.
There you go. So,
and let them go.
Pastor Hobbs, I know you had a comment you wanted to.
Yes. A gentleman, Patrick Wilson, who's tuned in, he made a comment with regard to the voting age you guys were talking about earlier. He says, just a question for thought. If kids can vote at 16, how much control or influence then does a parent have on that vote? The reason that I pose this is that in our particular society, many men control or try to control their partner's vote and thus their voice.
Right. Well, like I said, I think 16 is too young. Unless I think it has, in my opinion, there should be a competency test. I know people saying, well, you shouldn't test people's ability to vote, but I think if you're at 16 before you turn 18, is there a competency? But then a lot of the adults don't have the competency level
Exactly.
when they're voting, right? So how do you
But
balance?
I don't know if they passed it that they can vote at 16 yet, or if they can register. I know.
No, they want
passed
them to be
something-
able to vote. The city council.
First of all, if I can chime in here, because I personally think that people should be registering when they graduate. That should be a part of the whole ceremony. That's my first hit. My second hit is that I think education of our system should start in the home. When I raised my girls and my son, the part of the education of voting, they came with me at 16.
Yeah.
They were a
So
part
you
of the
knew.
process.
Right.
They didn't vote, but they understood it. So when they became 18,
yeah.
then I went there with them
Right.
and say, I'm going into this boarding pool with my baby,
Right.
and I'm gonna show, like I showed Jada,
Right.
this is exactly how you vote.
Right.
But you need to make the decision. This is why I'm voting for that person.
Right.
Dad can't do that for
Right.
you. So I think sometimes politics, and this is another issue that I think you're addressing. Sometimes politicians can overreach. Roe v. Wade is a good example of that.
Right.
And get into the homes. There are certain things that should be allowed. The parents should be allowed to do what they need to do to educate their kids. Period.
Well, no, you're right, Doctor. There is no government program that is going to replace being a parent.
Exactly.
And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing all of these
16 is too young.
institutions and all of these programs, right?
Yeah.
And the parents are just taking a step back, saying, "Oh, somebody else is going to fix my problem." No,
Well, that's a major problem. Some
Yeah.
of the parents, it
Yeah.
really is.
Yeah. Terrence, stand by. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the round table.
Peace, it's Jamal calling back.
Good morning, Jamal.
Hey, good morning. Hey, I just wanted to let you know, too, because I looked into that whole, 16-year-old thing.
Yep.
And so, first of all, they're trying to do it. They're trying to allow them to be able to vote at 16 in the municipal election,
In the municipal, okay, just on the city, okay,
just on the city.
right.
Right. And I don't know how they would get that done either.
Because the legislators the state has to pass
Yeah,
that.
that has to be some sort of home rule petition or whatever. I'm really reluctant to do 16 of voting. But like Dr. Bradley just said, I do believe that, there should be a civics program in schools, and that when you graduate, that should be a requirement of graduation, and at the time that you were back in the day, we graduated, we were 18. Now kids are graduating earlier, 17 sometimes, whatever. But just like you had to
Where?
register
Not
for the
DPS, like 22, 23. Okay, go ahead. There's some, but yeah.
like back in the day, when you graduated, you had to register for the selective service, right?
Right.
So I think that should all be part of it, and voting should be incorporated along with what Priscilla's talking about and others have advocated for years, is the actual teaching of civics, but incorporating it so it's like, hey, when you graduate, boom. I mean, I would also like economics in there, so kids know how to balance a checkbook and a credit score and all this type of stuff by the time they're high school and all this. You know?
But the thing is, Jamal, there's been a shift, right, to where we have these, the MCAS, right, that that the only thing they're trying to prepare for is what the state requirements are, and those things get left behind. And even engaging folks who come in and want to talk to these kids about these things, there's no room for that, and it's important.
But that can be changed, though, Larry. I mean, if we can reform policing, we can reform the way that MCAS is administered and the subject matters the MCAS is focusing on.
But
there should be no reason why our kids are walking out of schools and not understanding the rudiments of our government system or the understanding the rudiments of economics.
Right.
It's no reason for
But
that.
Dr. Bradley, folks, that will not change until the mayor and the folks listen to what the people have said when they said they want an elected school board, right? So as long as you have an appointed school board who primarily work for the mayor, that's not going to change. We're the only, I don't live in the city, but Boston is the only city that does not have an elected school board. Okay. That says it all. Okay. So that right there is the politics of it, right? Where there is no accountability to the public. Their accountability is to the mayor because they're appointed by the mayor. So they're an extension of employees of the mayor's administration.
Exactly.
Let me go back to just like the voting thing with the kids and stuff like this. So for one, like Priscilla was talking about, she's had the good fortune of being surrounded by a lot of good young people. Some of which, though, are outside of this category. As you mentioned, some are like NBU or, so some of them are adults in their own right.
Yeah, right. They're ahead of the curve.
Yeah, some of them are 21 or 18, whatever. But then let's go with the younger ones. Just like we talked about sometimes how legislation happens after one incident, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a bad incident happens, and then people develop policies. Yo, school got shot up. We need bulletproof glass in all the schools everywhere. And it's like, oh, wait a minute. That's just one thing, right? So to the other point, we also can't create, in my opinion, we can't create like policies for the anomalies either. So do we have some genius kids out there, like she said, who were saving for college at 14 and all that? God bless that kid, but that kid is a unicorn.
Well, but
Okay?
not only that, Jamal, is to talk about, like Priscilla, what she's doing, I think is great, but there's a capacity issue there, right? I think she can maybe do 20 something students, right? 20 some kids at a time, and that takes I don't know, it's over a week, it's not a couple of weeks. So the proper venue would be in the school where you can reach more people, right? Because at the rate that she was going, she might get, let's say she got 100 kids through her program during the course of a calendar year. That's helpful and it's appreciated, but it's not making the impact that the schools who have them.
Not even the impact. Let me see if I can crystallize this with another point that Dr. Bradley made. To our point that you like. Latin Academy, that should be the standard.
The norm, right, not the exception.
Right,
and Neil
norm.
Bryant, right.
Okay. Now, here's the problem with that. So, for instance, let's say all classes were advanced classes, right?
Yep.
Every kid ain't advanced. Well, then we say, well, what about the slow, learners or the different learners or whatever, right? So then we say, okay, well, let's dumb down all the classes and make all this the standard. So you can't go to the lowest of the thing. Now I'm getting mathematical. You can't go to the lowest of averages, and you can't go to the highest of averages. What you have to do is strike a median.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and in that median, you're going to capture most of the people, and then those in that median who are getting that basic foundational knowledge base, which needs to be raised, the bare standard minimum, what everybody gets needs to be raised, and then in that you will see the kids who emerge who want to excel, and they need to be nurtured. And then you will also see the kids who are falling by the wayside,
Right.
and they need to be nurtured.
But see, Jamal, that's why we were talking about, right, the vocational schools kind of, was that safety net for those kids, right, who we knew weren't off to college, right? I don't know if you guys remember the ROTC. Was it ROTC? No. Right.
Yeah, ROTC, the military thing?
No, right, but also it's down there where Hibernia Hall is there. It was called something else. It was like a trade, and then they had Boston Business.
Pick.
No, it was what was it?
One that John Kennedy started there.
No, not the junior ROT. This was not the Peace Corps.
Peace Corps.
No, this was in Roxbury, right? It was in Roxbury. Terrence, you might be able to help us out here as well, because I know you. It was right where near Hibernia Hall is. There was a kind of like a trade building with a rocks. Oh, it was it wasn't ROTC, but that was a building there for kids who were that needed to learn a trade. They could go there and get that skill set there. It was right out the entrance. If you come out of Greenville Street onto Dudley, where Hibernia Hall is, it was inside that building there before they reconstructed it to where it was. But I remember, a lot of kids who weren't going to go to college, they could go there and they would learn how to type. They could get some type of business school there. So they didn't fall through the cracks, and they could at least...
They had a skill set.
Right.
They sharpened a skill set.
Right. Like you said.
Employable skill set.
When the plumber and the electrician came to your house and gave you the bill,
like,
you were like, whoa, this is as much as my doctor's bill, right?
I mean, I don't make as much as a doctor.
Right.
You know what I mean? Teaching.
But a lot of these programs are out there. So, for instance, the Urban League been around forever. So, and a lot of these other places that do it, ABCD, whatever. So you can learn how to get you, tighten up your resume, write a resume, cover letter,
right.
all this.
That's what this was.
Skills and trade.
Yeah.
But my point is, though, nobody's beating the path down to their door. So even people who have a thing like let's say T. Michael. T. Michael is not as popular as Lil Wayne,
Right?
because there's not 10,000 kids that want to be T. Michael. There's 10,000 kids that want to be Lil Wayne.
Right. So Terrence, does Boston? You work for Water. Do they have any type of apprenticeship program or anything like that to bring in kids from? I know the fire department just announced that they're going to be starting up their cadet program. I think in February their first class is going to roll out for kids who want to become firefighters. But does other city government, other than the police department and now the fire department, is there anything like that in water and sewer?
Well, no, they have like summer jobs and stuff, and then they have like programs for the Wentworth Institute, the engineering program, to come over just to get an idea on how the engineering part of the water aspect is done. But as far as like a mentoring program to elevate some of these kids, no, they don't have that. At Boston Water and Sewer, and I don't think they plan on that. If they do, it's just going to be for the family and friends package.
Okay, so just like the rest of the 17,000 plus employees of the city of Boston, and that's what I'm saying. There's no mentorship, no apprenticeship there. And a lot of the folks that are there, they're not bringing anyone behind. That's why, like yesterday, the dedication of the Embrace of statue of Martin Luther King and his wife Coretta. I'm like, okay, I see the symbolism, but I'm like, in Boston, are we really embracing helping pulling up black people here in the city of Boston? Jamal?
We're not doing that anywhere in the country.
My prediction is this week there will be homeless people living outside and underneath the Embrace,
and the graffiti will come.
None of them people, and none of them people is going to go back in the spirit of Martin Luther King and help none of them folks.
Yeah. And then once the graffiti, our civil rights will be investigating a lot of the hate crime stuff.
Oh, that's definitely going to happen.
That's coming.
Either from just drunk people who just get drunk, or actual, like the white supremacists who are actually trying to deface it. Because, like, for instance, the Holocaust Memorial down there by Free Hall and Haymarket, that's gotten vandalized several times. But it's an equal amount of random drunk guy who really kind of didn't know any social significance and just was randomly drunk, and a person who was really like, screw the Jews, that type of thing. And it was a real racial incident. So either by humbug or by full intent.
By humbug or Junebug. No, it's.
I just want to, with more on Priscilla's program tomorrow, what can we expect to see or hear about your program that's going to interest
well, Priscilla, unfortunately, she had to run, so she has left the studio. So when you see her tomorrow, she can answer that for you personally.
Yeah.
What she's going to get out of that.
And I want to talk about this year. There's a whole lot of I had a dream. And it seemed like that's the only dream that this country ever focused on.
Well, I think that today he
is that dream. They just don't.
That his dream is become a nightmare for us. Gentlemen, stand by. We got another caller on the line. The Honorable Charles Yancey is allowed us to agree. I know we had to pull him into this.
I was waiting for this call.
Good morning, sir, and Happy New Year.
Good morning.
Happy New Year to you and to all your callers. My friend Terry Williams wants to Happy New Year to him as well and his family. I couldn't resist calling because you were having a senior moment.
Yeah, we have an anniversary coming up in a couple of weeks.
Oh, you got the answer.
Thank you very much for remembering that.
Well, how can I not when it's on my birthday?
Of course.
So you have the answer to the question of the location that we were trying to accept.
Yes, I have that, but let me just say that my wife has put up with me for so many years. We're going to celebrate our 53rd anniversary.
Wow. Just let her know, counselor, that if she had committed any crime other than marrying you, she would be on parole or probation already.
Well, I'm glad she's not listening. She doesn't get up as early as I do. But it's OIC.
OIC. There. Thank you, sir. See, we got
So
trivia here.
it's
OIC.
It was started by Leon Sullivan, who did a great job around the country encouraging people to invest in our young and not so young folks so they can develop skills, much like what T. Michaels is trying to do.
And see, this is
But
what I'm
on a
saying,
national
Counselor.
basis.
This is what we said. That was the safety net back then for folks who we knew were not going to be of the O'Brien, the Latin Academy caliber, but there was something for them, right? So that they could, the OIC, right? We don't have programs such as that
That's
today.
right. And we don't utilize the vocational educational programs that other systems in the state utilize. I mean, Madison was meant to be the premier vocational educational facility in the city of Boston, and we have not done a good job.
It's just
of
deteriorating
providing
there.
that outlet. And it's almost like we capitulated to unions in terms of apprenticeship programs, so that the unions maintain something of a monopoly on that, and our kids stranded without the skills that they need to be successful. And back in 1969, when I was a student at Tufts University, we saw that there were limited opportunities for people of color to work in the construction trade. So what did we do? We shut down the university in 1969, Tufts University. And the reason we did that was because the administration was ignoring the issues that we had to confront and ignoring the fact that there were no people of color on the construction site in Medford, and there was no effort to ensure that we had people of color working on the downtown New England Medical Center, which was controlled by Tufts. So I met Chuck Turner as a student and Mel King when we were forcing the administration to rectify the situation. And it's been a good relationship ever since.
But see, Counselor, that's you bring up a very good point, and this is what I'm saying is that I came up under the tutelage of a Billy Sylvester and a John Wells and those folks who made me understand what it was really like to be a police officer, a black police officer, right? And that did not define me, the job, but my responsibility. And you in the political arena and stuff, that's what I'm saying. That's what we don't have much of, and that's the mentoring that I received and why I am the way I am about policing, and particularly when it comes to police officers that look like me and the accountability that we have and that we should have to the public, and we shouldn't be treating them like us against them, because we at some point, other than the role we have, are part of that community.
We are them.
Right.
You're supposed to be part of the community, but unfortunately there have been problems on both sides of that equation. There have been problems with the community feeling alienated from the police, and problems within the police department itself where many people feel it's us against them. And
well, I think to that point, Counselor, is that they've been told that you have to choose one or the other, right? You cannot be a black police officer. You just have to be a police officer, right, for the city of Boston. And we know what that entails. It doesn't entail the inclusiveness that it should.
So let me just close on this. I know you're coming to the end of your program. The police are supposed to be a part of the community. The community is supposed to be working with the police to do some joint problem solving. And to a very real extent, it's up to the community to identify the problems and work with the police to develop strategies. Some problems may not require intervention of an armed police officer, but the direction should come from the community itself, and the police should feel like they are a part of the community. And that operates very well in perhaps suburban communities, but somehow when you get to the city and you're dealing with the diversity of the city and dealing with people of color who've been oppressed, and police have been used as an instrument of oppression in the past.
Well, I think that says a lot, though. Now you think that the Boston Police Department has now called for lateral transfers outside the city, that we're now having to bring people from outside the city in to help us to deal with our internal situation here, that the lack of interest in the profession. I think it's an honorable profession when it's carried out correctly, but the fact that we now have to recruit from outside, something that we said didn't work, is now we're forced to because of near necessity of bringing in a living, breathing body. I'm not sure how it's going to work, but.
Well, I have a lot of concerns about it, but perhaps you invite me on your program one day.
Absolutely. Matter of fact, you have an open invitation. Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Thank you, and happy anniversary, sir.
If I can chime in on that
Yeah.
on real quickly, I think we are our own worst enemy in policing.
Yeah.
I think that our administrators and our leaders, so-called leaders, have not done a very good job in making sure that the police officer is mentally and behaviorally and emotionally intact before we're sending them to broken situations, which feed into what the council is talking about, that them versus us type of attitude. No one cares about me. So I think we need to do a better job internally to prepare the representative of a police department, which is a patrol officer. So when she's getting to that call, they're whole. They're not broken. That's just my hit. That's one of the things that I think we should do better.
Yeah.
Let me add this, in terms of police from outside places coming here. In the words of Pastor Wall's good friend, Mr. T, my prediction is pain.
Pain.
So what's going to happen, in my opinion, is, first of all, this is going to further tarnish the reputation of the BPD. Because now, if this actually goes forth and you get an influx, you have the potential. You guys are familiar with the law enforcement profession. Those who have the warrior mentality, and now we have the potential of recruiting a bunch of suburbanite. We get Rambo cop from Lowminster or whatever, who's going to come in and I'll show you guys how. Well, I'll put these folks in order. and then ultimately they will probably have to move here. Maybe they'll even lift
They have to live here within 6 months, which I think is going to be a big deterrent because Boston is not so affordable anymore. But yeah, you're right.
They'll all share an apartment.
Right.
They'll all share an apartment in Hyde Park. You know how that goes.
Right.
Or West Roxbury. So once that happens, though, then these people will, of course, maintain wherever they've been living in the suburbs or whatever.
Right.
Ultimately, any bad act that they do is going to reflect on the department as a whole.
Yeah.
And then they could say, oh, you know what, this is not for me, and skate off into the distance or whatever it is, if it wasn't a criminal thing, whatever. And you guys, the Boston Police Department, are left with more bad press, more bad will in the community based on the treatment of some people that they busted from.
Right. Well, the thing that I think that doesn't work in Boston's favor as well is the impediment that I'm hearing from is that your chief of your town has to sign off on you allowing you to go in a lateral because that town is invested in you. So you just can't decide arbitrarily on your own that you want to go to Boston without release from your town because you are an employee of him. Now, unless you had taken a test for Boston and you come off the list, but this lateral has to be approved. And these other departments are experiencing the same shortage of personnel.
Right, and in sports, of course, coaches always give up their best players, right?
And a lot of regards, that's worse.
And you know what, Larry? On that note, because with some of these towns, they have auxiliary. And auxiliaries paying more, because there's a whole lot of police officers who are going to these small towns to work. A lot
of retirees are going to
I'm going there, because even with Braintree had to shut down, the application process because a whole lot of folks was going to Braintree.
Right.
Braintree was paying $75 an hour.
Right.
Just to do auxiliary.
Right, Norfolk County. But I like what Jamal just snuck in there on us. I like that analogy. Like he said, coaches always give up their best players, right?
Yeah.
And so I didn't even think about that aspect that Jamal just said. Is that if I got a problem employee, Boston, you could have.
I mean, like I'm saying, in the last regards, that is much more
likely what you're going to get.
That's what you're going to get. You're going to get the recalcitrant.
Yeah.
You're not going to get the individual that easy to manage. You're going to get the guy, that just causing my problem.
Right.
Of course, I want to get rid of him.
Or just the guy that they see no potential in. He's just a humdrum, go along, that. He's just, he shows no potential.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, we appreciate it. We're down to our final minute of the broadcast. I want to get Priscilla's information out there again before we close. I thank you all. Appreciate it. I feel the love, Dr. Bradley, being back here and the phones and folks calling in. Good to hear from Brother Terrence. You guys have to come into the studio, Matter of fact, even as guest hosts, right?
Yeah,
so,
exactly. Give us a break sometime.
There you go,
I shouldn't be talking about breaks.
I'm good. And give Nancy your segment and call it Get the Answers with Yancy.
I like that. Get the answers. I like that. I'm going to pitch that to him. Thank you, gentlemen. Jamal, I'll most likely see you tomorrow, my brother. I appreciate you folks, and stay dry. A little chilly out there. Big drop in the temperature. Thank you. So, folks, before we go, a reminder that the Marcus Anthony Hall Educational Institute is their launch event tomorrow, Sunday, January 15, 2023, from 3 to 5:30 p.m. at the Bruce Bowling Building, also the school department headquarters, 2300 Washington Street on the 6th floor in Roxbury, Mass. Hear from these three dynamic speakers, State Rep Russell Holmes, Nika Elgato, and Glenn Ford. Dr. Bradley, any closing remarks, sir?
Glad to be here.
Glad to be here.
That's it. I'm good, man.
He's got a hammer in his hand. If I had a hammer, I'd hammer in the morning.
I really miss this though, man, because I look forward to this every Saturday. It's educational, and I see things like what Priscilla just introducing here. I think that is just the solution. Yeah. I think having our students, our kids educated in government. So we hear things like what we're hearing out of Washington today, they have a very good understanding. Yeah. Having our kids understand the voting procedure, the voting process, and I just think that's the way to go. But I hope we can do it at the school level. Right. She can only make a not even a small dent in the problem. But if we actually take this and ensure that our school system, offering required curriculum, and with at the end required registration. That's where we should go. All right, gotta go. Right. God willing, we'll be back next week. You've been listening at the Roundtable with Ma'am Leo. Be blessed. Be blessed. 300 songs in 1 year, Boogie will tell you I'm on it. I got unreleased songs for days, they don't want it. Eat any MC in the game, it ain't a